Can you chat? All right. Can you put in the chat box if you can see my screen already? Should be able to share the task.
Yeah, it's showing that you are sharing your screen, but we can't see anything on the screen right now.
Okay, I don't know why. Let me stop it again. Yeah, I don't know why this is not sharing my entire screen. Just reject. Right. Are you seeing it now? You should be able to see it now. Can you see it now?
Oh.
Can you see it now? I mean, I can see it too.
My friend,
The thing is still loading. Sure.
my baby, my own baby, my own baby, yeah.
All right. Can you confirm that I can see my screen now? You should be able to see it. Are you seeing it now?
Yes, you can see your screen.
Yes,
Right.
you can.
Beautiful. So now, if you look at my screen very well and you look at the console, you can see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you see that? Just type on the comment section on the chat box. Sorry, you can see that. Beautiful. So what happened? Also, what happened there is that he ran the code the first time, printed out our initial value 0. Ran the code the second time, printed out, increased this 0 to 1, printed out the next value 1. Ran the code again, increase this 1 to 2, printed out the value 2. Run the code again, increase this 2 to 3. Run the code again, increase this 3 to 4. Have you seen it now? So instead of writing a code that we say 1 plus 1, 1, 1 plus 2, 2, 1 plus 3, 3, like that, you now be writing console, all of those stuff, right? So you can just quickly use your loop to loop your value, right? To loop your values like that. So yeah, so that's basically that for that. That's the basic thing when it comes to for loop that you have to understand. So there are 3 major things that you have to understand there, like we talked about. Number 1 is the initialization. It comes with an initial value. Number 2 is the condition. So the condition would either be true or false. When the condition is true, the code will run. And when the condition is false, it will end the loop for you. So these are the 3 major things you have to understand when it comes to for loop. Then inside of that, inside of the curly brace, inside here now, that's where you write the code that will be executed. So whatever you want to do with those values, or whatever code that you want to be executed, is what will be in your bracket, right? So that's that for that. So that's basically all you have to know about for loop. So can you see my VS Code now? Let me share it again.
No, the screen is not displaying now. Okay, it is.
Oh, it's displaying now, huh?
Yes, you can see.
Good. So we are basically done around showing stuff around this for you. So I just pray we have time at the end of the class. I'll just run through this stuff with these simple examples, and then we'll do like one example to sort of put all of these things together. One to show you how everything works real life. So number 2 loop that I want us to look at is what we call while loop. What we call while loop. I give us a condition for using for loop. So you want to use for loop when you know the exact number of iterations that you want to perform, right? So when you know the exact number of iterations that you want to perform, how many times you want the circle to go, so you want to use your for loop. So, but for while loop is used to repeat a certain block of code when a certain condition is true. If the condition before, so it checks the condition before it, before it does the movement, before it does the iterations, right? So you want it to check if the condition is true or false yet. Unlike for loop will just run the code before it will know whether the condition is true or false. But for while loop, the condition has to be true first before it will run anything for you. So yeah, this is how that syntax looks like. So we have the keyword while, right? We have the keyword while, then we have our bracket, and then we have the condition inside. So if this condition is false, it will not come down here to run the code. It will not come down here to run the code, right? So if this condition becomes false, so this condition must be true before it will execute whatever code you want it to execute down here, right? So but anytime it turns to false, it goes off. It goes off. So let's do like this kind of this same example that we did here. This same example that we did here. With this same example that we did here, let's use while loop to execute that code. So now let's say, so we already seen the syntax here. So if we want to write while loop, we want to write the while keyword, and then we want to open a bracket. And we want to take this condition that is now a for loop here and say, okay, let this condition be, let I be equals to 5. Before then, we want to tell the computer what is the value of I. So we want to say let I be equals to 0, like we did here, right? Like we did here. Then we want to now say this is the code we want you to run. Once the compiler checks and this is true, that is the only time it will run this code for you. If not, it's not going to run the code for you. But in for loop, for instance, whether this condition, when this condition, before it starts, this condition does not have to be true. So if it happens that this condition is false, it will just come down to console log this stuff for you. That will be all. So, but for this one, it has to be true first before it runs whatever thing that's inside of this page for you. So, we want to see like console.log I. So, log I. So, we want to say for as long as I is less than 5, keep giving us the value of I. That's what we mean by this code here. Let me close this so that it can run. Yeah, I think you should already should. let me share my okay. I forgot to add something here. Sorry. Whenever we do this, we want to also increment this I. We want to also increment this I that is here. So you see, it's basically rewriting this for loop that we have here. So we have given the initial value, we have saying this is the condition, and then we are printing out this if it is true. Then if it prints out this, it's going to increase the value of I that it printed out, and it will go back again, check if the new value here now is greater than this, it will increase it again, it goes back like that, just within that circle. All right. So yeah. That's how it works. I don't know if you can see my other screen already. Just type in the chat box if you can see my screen already. I don't know why. Yeah, can you type in the chat box? Let me start seeing. Okay. Right. Okay. Sorry about that. Maybe I should just be using my console on my. All right, so let me stick with what is on my browser. Let me stick with what is on my VS Code.
Mr. Chris, your screen is out. I don't know if you did this on purpose.
Yeah, I'm trying to like think. I don't know why it's not working. I'm trying to change it so that you could see my browser. So, but I think I'll just be using everything on my VS Code so that I'll avoid this switching.
Okay.
So I'm wondering. Yeah, I'll just do everything on my VS Code to avoid switch. Let me leave this meeting and join again. To avoid all of this switching, I'll just do everything on my school. Sorry guys for all of this technical issue. Sorry for the technical. Okay. Let me leave the meeting and join again. Sorry. Just 5 minutes. I don't know why this is. All right, can you hear me
Yes, so
now? All right. Let me try sharing the screen again. It's going on. Okay, still not working. Okay. All right. So I think you should see the screen now. Just confirm when you can see it. Just type in the chat box, you can see it already.
We can't.
Okay. Should be able to see it.
We
yes.
can see.
Okay. Okay, so good. What I would do is, I was trying not to do this because I think some of us are already used to seeing our console from the browser, but on the VS Code, this is our terminal. So this is where I'm going to be testing my code from. And I'm going to be using Node. So please don't really get bothered about what it is. But if you write your code with the way we have been writing it, you only see your result on the console on the browser. So to avoid me going round and round and round, .js. Okay. So yeah, if you look at the screen now, you can see my terminal, and you can see the answers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, like we had in our previous loop. So even if I should remove these comments that I put on this for loop now, you see that is essentially the same thing. So the first 0 to 4 is for the for loop, and the second 0 to 4 is for the while loop. So I was able to achieve this same answer using both for loop and while loop. So yeah, that's that for that. Let me show us the third one. Then we'll just go through arrays and objects, then do one example that will sort of cover all of this stuff together in the class for today. Everybody will want. I don't want us to get to 10 today. So number 3, and which the last one I'll be treating, is what we call do while loop. Do while loop. So now do while loop is another beautiful loop in not just in what do we call it now? Not just in JavaScript now. I don't know if there's another programming language, but let me just see that. So yeah, do while loop in JavaScript. So what do while loop is very similar to while loop, right? But what do while loop does is that it will check the condition after every cycle, after every iteration. It will check the cycle after every iteration. So it's going to, you know that while loop, the difference now is that while loop will only run if the condition is true. It will only run if the condition is true. But for do while loop is going to ensure that it goes through the block of code, even if the condition was initially false. is going to execute the code once, then check the condition again. So for the very first time the while loop is going to run, is not going to check the condition first. So it will check it once. It will run the code once, then it will now check the condition if it's true or false. So the initial nature of the condition can either be true or false. The do while loop will run. But unlike our while loop, the condition for the loop to even run at all, the condition has to be true. And our do while loop has another shape that is quite different from the while loop. So this is the syntax for the do while loop. So the idea is the English way to let me comment this out. The English way to say this thing is do whatever is here once. I get it now. Do whatever is here once, then check if the condition is true. If the condition is true, do this again. Do this again. Then go back and check the condition again. So it carries out whatever code that you say is whatever code you put out here. It does whatever thing that you put here once before checking the condition, whether it is true or false. So it will keep doing this. It will do this, check the condition. It will do this, check the condition. So until it checks and finds out that, oh, the condition is now false, it will now stop. But it's quite different from the while loop, because the while loop has to check if the condition is true first before it runs the code. But this one will run the code once. That's the difference. It will run it once, then it will not check. So when it's running this code once, it does not matter whether the condition is true or false. So it will run it once, then it will not check. If the condition is true, it will run it again. But if you run it once and it checks that the condition is false, it would stop exactly at that point. So let's try and see if we can use this same example here to implement our do while do. So first of all, let's initialize. Let me comment this out. First of all, let's initialize our value. Let's say let I be equal to 0. Let I be equals to 0. So you see that it's finding an error. If you can see it, it's finding an error because this value, I've already declared this I here. So let me comment this out and then to be fine now. So we'll now say do console log. So we're not saying do console log I. So print out the value of I, then print out the value of I, then go ahead, print out the value of I, then go ahead and increase the value of I by 1. Where is that plus? Not capital letter, small letter I. Then go ahead and increase the value of this. Then after you have done this thing that I wrote, after I have done this thing here once, this is me commanding my computer now. Now come back and check if I is less than 5. So when it does this once, I come back and check if I is less than 5. So if I is less than 5, do this thing again. Come back and check. If I is still less than 5, do this thing again. Sorry about that. So hope if you have now checked again that is still less than 5, do this again. But once you check and is greater or equals to 5, stop doing this loop, right? So if we attempt to like run this stuff again now, let me close this one. If we attempt to run this stuff again now, you see that we have the same values, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So we have the same values. So we have implemented our do while, our while loop, my God, and our for loop. Good. So this is the basic way we do loop in JavaScript. I hope you have followed to this point. So like I said, we are going to do one simple example at the end of this conversation. Just one simple real life stuff. Then we'll be done with our class today. So let me quickly, we already did arrays. So let me just type arrays. I hope you can see this. Maybe these colors are perfect. Let me type arrays here. So the last time I already taught us the syntax of arrays. I think I already did that, right? So let's attempt to discuss a little about arrays. I think I've talked about it, so there's not so much stuff to do. We'll just go straight into it. So arrays are fundamental to programming, not just JavaScript, like I always like to say. They are very fundamental to programming. So arrays are fundamental data structure in programming. So it allows you to like store data. It allows you store a collection of elements, whether they are the same data type or not. It allows you to store it. It could allow you to like manipulate it, increase it, decrease it, add it, sort it, however you want it to be, right? So they can hold multiple data types. So it could be number, string, object, however you want it inside of the array. So array is a container that can hold all of that. So the array is just very beautiful for storing data. It's just very, 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 very beautiful for storing data. And so there are a lot of things that are very important about arrays, and which are the fact that arrays comes with a ton of built-in methods in JavaScript, right? It comes with a ton of built-in methods in JavaScript, of which you really, really, really have to know. So you can access individual elements in arrays and stuff like that. So let's just quickly, we already talked about this before. So the array syntax, you can define your array. So let's define an array of let's define an array and call it what do we call it now? Let's just call it a shop, for instance. So let's say an array, this particular array now is a shop, right? So inside of the shop, so this is how we declare our array syntax. It sure does that be. So inside of the shop, we want to say we have Gary. We have Gary. We sell Gary in the shop. We sell egg in the shop. We sell fried rice. We sell fried. How do you spell it? The fried rice. We sell fried rice. Our shop is located at number 25. We also sell sugar. It's not be good to buy Gary without sugar. So we also we also sell sugar, and then we do a little bit of granite, right? Granite. So we do a little bit of granite. I hope that my spelling is correct. So yeah, so this is an array. So we are assuming that this array is our shop, right? We are assuming that this array is our shop, and in our shop we sell egg, sell Gary, we sell fried rice. Our shop is located at number 25. We sell sugar, we share granite. So if you want to steal Gary, you can come to our shop and do it excellently well. Okay, let me add water. I think water is missing. All right. There's water. Good. So we also sell water at our shop. So this is basically what an array is. So the first thing I want you to know, the first concept I want you to know about array is what we call index. I think I explained this in our last class. It's what we call index. Index. So index is the fact that every item in this array is by default automatically assigned a number according to their position, according to where they are in the array. So, and this index starts at 0. It starts at 0. So 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on and so forth. So that's what we call index. So we use index to sort of target different elements inside of our array. For instance, if I ask you now, inside our shop, which cupboard, maybe let's assume the index to be different cupboards, and the cupboard has numbers, right? From 1 to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I say, okay, which cupboard do we keep water, for instance? Which cupboard do we keep water, for instance? So you want to find out which cupboard do we keep water. So we want to know that's what is the index of water. What is the index of water? So so we can always target different indexes. But let me just show something now. So if we say shop, we put our bracket, and let me say what did I call it again? Is it cabinet? What did I call it again? Let me say let's shape, not shape. Let's space. That's the space where we are keeping all these things be equals to shop.
Cupboard. You said cupboard.
Yes, I said cupboard. I've already written space. Let's be there. So be equals to 0, for instance. So like I told us before, index could either be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on and so forth. So we want to see what element what is stored on our space, 0. What is stored on our space, 0. So we want to console console.log space, form of cupboard, like I said. We want to say console.log space. So when we sort of run this code now, you can already see from my console now Gary. So Gary is stored on index 0. So if we want to check what is stored on index 3, for instance, we want to run this code again, and you see that 25 is what is stored on our index 3. If you want to check what is stored on our index 6, you see that water is stored on our index number 6. So yeah, so that's the first thing I want us to know, that everything that is on an array. So I just thought was one beautiful thing here now that we really appreciate, right? So you know that everything that is an array has an index. It has a number that we use to target it. So the second thing is, this is number one, right? Number two, the second thing is length. Like I said, there are a ton of methods written to our array that we can use to manipulate it, right? So the second one is length. But let me show us something now. Let me say shop is our array, right? So if I say shop dot, if you look at if you look at my VS Code now, you can see push, map, for each, length, join, concatenate, copy with, entry. So these are just even, you see them, there are a ton of methods and properties that are written around, around our arrays that can help us to like manipulate it. But let's just do a few that you most probably be needing. So shop, so there's what we call length. So it's a JavaScript, a method that's already written into our what do we call it? Our shop, our array. Yeah, so it's already written into our array normally. So it's important. So it's important that we know some of these methods. You will be asking, where am I getting the method from? How did I know the method? Check out MDN, check out Mozilla Developers Network. Just read up stuff like that. You see all of those things there. But majorly, you always want to know them when you need them, right? So you don't need to know all of them all together. So yeah. So what length does is that it tells us the length of the array. So length tells us the length of the array. It tells us like the total number of items that are inside of these arrays. So let's find out what is the length of this particular array called shop. So we say let length be equals to shop dot length. So we want to like console.log, and we want to say array, length is, I've already taught us this thing before, our last class. We want to pass in the length variable inside of it. Good. So let's find out what's the length of this array now. So you see, array length is 7. So it will mean that there are 7 items in this space. Are there up to 7 items here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, that's 7 items in this array. So if you want to know how many items in the array, instead of using a for loop to count the entire stuff or trying to write the code that to find out this, you can just easily say array.length. You know the length of this particular array. Let me just show us like 2 other methods, and then we'll leave array. There's this other one, number 3 is pop. Let's use push first. It's called push. So if I want to add an element onto our arrays, say for instance in our shop now, we now started selling there's Gary, there's sugar, there's water, there's granules. Let's say smoked fish, for instance. I think some people use smoked fish to sip Gary, right? So let's say we added smoked fish to the things that we are selling now in our shop. So instead of going back to this array to manually type it in or something like that, there's an array method that we call push. So what push does is that it adds on 1 or more elements to the end of an array. So it's not add it at the beginning of the array, it will come to the end here to come and add the new item that we want to add on. So let's assume that we want to now, in our shop now, we want to add smoked fish. So we want to say shop, which is our array dot, we'll type push. Inside of the push now, we'll now pass in the smoked. Smoked. Oh my god. Now passing smoked fish. So I'll pass in smoked fish. If I now attempt to console, if I now attempt to display this array, let me show us the array now. If I attempt to show the array now, you see, hope you are seeing my terminal. If you attempt to show the array now, you will not see the value of the array. So this is now our array, as you can see in my terminal here. Okay, so this is the array now. So we have gari, we have egg, we have fried fish, we have 24, we have sugar, we have granite, we have water. Now we have smoked fish added to our array. Just it now. So we have used that push method to add smoked fish to our array. That makes a lot of wonderful sense. All right, guys. So let me show us one or two more, then we are done. Pop, I mentioned this before. Pop. So pop removes the last element from an array and returns it. Pop removes the last element from an array and then it returns that particular element. So for instance now, and I ask, maybe I do one watching over my shop, I will now ask you, oh bro, what's the last item that we added to this shop this week? What's the last item that we added to this shop this week? Remove it and give it to me. I don't want us to sell smoked fish anymore because that's the last item that we added here. I don't want us to smell. Yeah, exactly. I don't want us to sell smoked fish anymore. So what you just do is to say shop dot pop. You know, the method proves it. Shop dot pop. So when I will now console dot log final console dot log shop. By the time I run this code, you'll find out that you'll find out that this is okay. Let me remove this one first so I can be confused. By the time I run this thing now, you'll not find out that this is the array now. You'll not find out that smoked fish is no longer on our array. So I have removed it. So when they say it removes and return, this is what it means. It means if I store this stuff now in a variable, if I store this stuff now in a variable and say let last item be equals to this, and then I say console.log last item. So first of all, it will remove it from the array like we have seen, and then it will return that particular value for us, which is what smoked fish. So that's that about pop. The other ones like the other array methods like shift, splice, unshift, man, there are just a ton of them. So as you keep working, as you keep using it, you'll be getting to interact with more and more and more and more of this kind of stuff, right? Good. So that's that for that. So the next one is objects. The next one is objects. Next one, and I already showed us objects before now, and I told us that objects are also fundamental in programming and essentially in JavaScript. It helps us to, it stores data in key value pairs. That's one of the things that makes it really, 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 really awesome. It stores data in key value pairs. So yeah, so if I'm able to finish this in 10 minutes, we'll use the remaining time to solve our example that will help us master about this thing together. So object. All right, so this is object, and then we said object is very essential in JavaScript, as a matter of fact, in programming. And then it stores data in key value pairs, where the keys are strings or symbols, depending. And then the values could be any data type. The values could be any data type, including object itself. You can store an object in an object. Yeah, so it's actually a very vast stuff, right? And it can help you to, like, just like arrays, it can help you to store data and manipulate it efficiently. Manipulate it, tweak it however you want, and stuff like that. So we have two ways of declaring. Oh, I did not even show us how to declare. The second way of declaring arrays, but let's just leave it at this. We have two ways that we create arrays. So it's either we have what we call the literal syntax, and then we have what we call the object constructor syntax. Just not to bog us with plenty English. We'll just stay with the literal syntax for now. Most of the times, let's just stay with the literal syntax. So let's say, so we said object stores data in key value pairs, giving us access to manipulate it. Let's say you are the one managing my shop, for instance. Let's say you're the one managing my shop, for instance, and I want to know your name, your age, where you are from, and stuff like that. So I will not say const shop manager biodata. Is equals to, so I already showed us how this curly bracket is for object. Then I said it's key value pairs. So your name, the key. So your name is the key. So this is key, then a semicolon. Then I can now take your name as a string value. Let's say your name is John Doe. And then your date, just say and then your date of birth is new date. Let's say your date of birth is, let's say your date of birth is 12 of 9 of 2000. And then we say state of origin is Enugu State. Enugu. And let's say what else can I, let's say your age. I don't know what your age will be now, but let's say you are 23 years old. Good. So this is exactly how an object works. So we use it to store data in key value pairs. We use it to store data in key value pairs. So like what do they call it now? Like our arrays, we have different methods too that are around that we can use around our that we can use around our objects, for instance, to manipulate values and figures around objects. So I'll just show us like two, and then we'll just practice like two of them, and then we are gone. So the first one is value. So we use the object.values method to return arrays containing the values of an object. So it allows you to get the value of a property inside of an object, right? So if I want to, so like I told us, in an object we have keys and values, right? So we have keys and values. So when I say object.values will help us to return the values, it will return only the values and not the keys. Let's just look at it. So only the values and not the keys. So if we want to use it now, we can say something like let values be equals to the name of my object, which is shop manager biodata dot object dot values. Sorry, I think I missed it. So I think I've misplaced it. So it's object.values, then I put the name of the object into this place, which is shop manager biodata. So yeah. So what this is going to return is not going to, so we said we have key. This is a key. Like, so inside of this object, these things are called property, right? So this is a key and this is a value. So what I'm telling this object to do is to return only the value and not the keys. So it will not return name, date of birth, date. To just return John, my date of birth, my state, so it will just run John Doe, this Enugu and age. It will not return these keys together with them. So that's what we use this very particular object for. That's what we use this particular method for. So if I want to show us now, I will now say console. I'll now say console.log value. So it will only now, when we run this, it will only return the values like we are seeing here as an array. So it returned the values as an array. So it did not, let me close this stuff so that you see it better. Clear. So yeah, so it returned just this stuff as the values of this particular object. So if I just want to check the value, if I just want to return all the values in this particular object, so yeah, that's the function to you. Okay, so that is that. This is one. Let me attempt to show us another one that maybe sort of common. And
Excuse me, sir. Hello, sir.
Is that a question?
Yeah, just an observation. On the date, why is it not showing the exact value that we input? I could like the month is not showing on the results. the day is showing and the year is showing. So what's the go wrong?
Okay, so I'll answer that question immediately after this stuff. But our site, so is based on Unix. Don't worry, I'll answer it at the end of it, so that we don't drag back that. Thank you. So when I'm done with this, before we do our example, I'll just open a window, we'll ask sort of our question, we answer it, then we'll do the example, and then everybody goes on to sleep. All right, so I'll just show us only one. I'll just show us only one more, what do you call it? One more method. So there's a method that is called entries, and that method called entries, what it will do now is to return an array containing the key and the value pairs from an object. So it will just return that for you. So with this object.entries, you can access the key and the value together. So remember that the first one that we did, we can only access the values, right? So, but for this particular one I'm about to show us now, okay, let's call it entries. This particular one I'm about to show us now, which is object.entries. Then we'll put in the name of the object. So this particular one now, we return all the entries in arrays. So it will take name and John Doe, put it inside an array. It will take date of birth, put it inside an array. To take state, put it inside an array, and to package all of it into an array. So, but what values did is just to pick only the value, but object.entries will take both the values and the key. So let's attempt to see that. So let me close this one so I can see it better. So you can see it better now. So this is the general array. So the name, key and entry, one array, key and entry, another array, key and entry, another array, key and entry, another array, and so on and so forth. So that's what this particular method does. So that's exactly what this particular method does. I don't know if that's for sure on that one. So yeah, let's leave it at that. And just give maybe 10 minutes to answer questions, and then we move. Yes, the question that this man asked about the date. So when we are using a date object, like I did that particular example that I was doing. So it converts it to it picks the date and converts it to the date of your machine, like the way your machine will understand it. So that's why this is my system now. So I'm using a Linux So it picks this data and it converts it to the way this machine will understand it. So, but if you look at it carefully, you can really understand what it is actually. So it turned it around to the way this operating system that is running this machine. This is the year now. This is the date, right? See that? So this is the date. Then this is the month. Whatever all of those things are. Yeah. So, but that's what it does. That's what the system. I don't know if I'll be able to help you more.
Okay, I get the illustration. I mean, the order of the arrangement. I just where I was worried was at that point of 08, but now I think that I got it. Then when you were entering the DOB, we have the keyword new date. Is that what you
Yes.
used to push it or to pass it to the new to the Linux language or something?
No. Is no that the new date. So there's a class called date, which is in JavaScript.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a class called date, which is already embedded in a JavaScript. So anytime I needed to use that class called date, so you use the new keyword to create it. So yeah, this is object-oriented programming shit. So we just use the new date object to create a new class object.
Okay.
Sorry, a new date object from our big general date class.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So it's not really to pass it to it will pick the operating system by itself.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
any other questions so that we can do our small test and then any other question?
Hello, good evening. Hello.
Yes, good evening. Please want to ask a question, you just raise your hands, but go on. I think this is Mike. Go on.
Yeah. Can can an array contain data type of an object and vice versa for an object as well?
Okay, data types of yes. An array can have any data type. Same thing as an object. An object can have an object
Array.
can carry an array in it. For instance, we can say what do we say now? State. Let's say this is our shop manager. Let's say state visited. So we can store all of that in that array and say, let's say Kano, Edo, right? So we can store all of this stuff in an array. So yeah, an array can have objects in them. An object can have an array in them. So I hope I've been able to help.
Thank you.
Last question. Second to last question. And Emmanuel, you can go on now. And Emmanuel, can you hear me?
Okay, please. My network logged me out. Please, can I see the function of object.values, please?
The function of object.values. Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I said object.values return only the values.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So I said object.values return only the values in the
Hello.
in the object.
Okay. My question.
I've answered your question, right? All right, thank you very much. Felix,
Yeah, hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening, sir.
Thank you. Please, the whole idea of the return, I don't really understand it. Where does it return the value to?
Okay. If dive we use that return. I think in pop bar. It's in pop bar that we talked about that returning value. So yeah, when you're executing stuff in JavaScript, especially when it comes to method, can't even remember all of the extension that makes all these things happen. I would have showed us to download them. Can't remember all of them. So when you are trying to do a particular method, you have to like know exactly what that method does. I don't know if you can see my screen. There's a little pop-up when I touch this pop here. You can like literally read what it says. It says removes the last element from an array and returns it. It says if the array is empty, undefined is returned and the array is not modified. So what essentially pop does is that when it removes the last element from our array, we will be expecting that this particular function to come back with a value. And that value is going to be the value that it removed from the array. So that's essentially what is happening there. So what happens is that we can now store that value that we are expecting from that particular method on a variable so that we can use the value for something else. Maybe we just want to display the value or want to use the value for something else. So we can store it here, for instance. But when we get to pop, you see that what pop does is that it adds an element to the end of the array and returns the new length of the array. So when you want to use a method, you want to like read the documentation about it a little so that you will know what values the method accepts and what values the method returns. You know, some can just process and not return a value, or 100% of the time, sorry, 98% of the time, or a good number of the times, let me not put a value to it, it will come back with a value. So you want to store that value in a variable if you need it to do something. If you really don't need it, you can leave it alone. So that I don't know if I was able to help you a little.
So for us to use return, that is to say we must have a variable that's a container that's ready to accept that value.
Yes. So if the method we are talking about here now will return a value, you can store it in a variable, in a container if you need it, and if you need to use it. And yeah, that's correct.
All right, so thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, guys. So let me hope I'll be able to cover them. So let's get into our more example that will just help us to give perspective to things that we are doing. Right. Okay, so let's this one. Okay, so let's assume that we have a already use. Okay, let's still assume that we have the shop, right? Let's still assume that we have a shop like we already talked about, and then there are items in our shop, right? And then we want to like count how many items are in our shop. But this time around, we want to like implement it in our own way. let's just do this one and do so. This one is going to help us, see how we can work with arrays. Look at how we can work with for loop together. Then we'll do the second one. Do the second one. Okay, so good. So let's bring back our shop array. So let's bring back our shop example. So now this is our shop array. Yeah. Comment this out. Comment. So we want to count how many items are in the shop. So we want to say let the number of item be equal to let's leave it as 0 first. And so we want to say now for, remember we have to initialize our value. I want to send the initials to to send the initials to 0, and then we want to say sorry, we have to declare this, let our initialization be 0. So now we want to put a condition, and the condition we want to put is that when I is less than, so we want to say whenever I, which is our initial value, is less than the number of items in our shop, which is the number of items in our shop will be shop.length. Number of items in our shop will be shop.length. When you have done this, increment I. Right, so we want to now say let now the number of item, let's increase the number of items. So what we are saying is that there's an initialization of I, right? So we are saying whenever this particular number, because this particular number will keep increasing with this. So whenever this particular number is, whatever is in this particular number now, check if the number is less than the length of this particular array here, then increase I if it is true, right? Increase I if it is true. But before then, you want to increase this number here. Remember that you're trying to find out how many items are in the shop. So increase this, know that this initial value is 0. So when this has happened and it's true that this condition is still true, add 1 to this value. If the condition is still true, add 1 to this value. If the condition is still true, add 1 to this value. If the condition is still true, add 1 to this value till we get to the end of this particular array. So let's console.log number of item. Yeah, so let's console.log number of, let's console.log. I think we can do something like this. Let's just take this out of here so that we will not be displaying, so that we will not be, while we're moving down from there, so that it will not be showing 0, 1, 2. I just want to know the final number. I just want to know the final figure when all of this is done. So I'll just bring the console log down here, say console dot log. I want to say the number of items in this shop is. I already thought of this stuff that last time. Yes, 6 way of doing things. Yeah, so we're not saying we have our shop, there's Gary, whatever in our shop. We want to find out how many number of items in the shop. So we're not saying, let's assume that the items are 0 for now. So when this for loop runs, it will be counting the number of items here. So it have counted the number of items here. It will now come here and see that value. Then we have value here. So let's clear this and run this code again. We have an error saying cannot access shop, cannot access shop for initialization. Start. That all right, so another interesting thing about programming is that you run into bugs and errors like this, and you have to debug. So you have to find out that way when your issue is coming. Well, all right, now I can't see it.
Scroll up and check.
You said?
Scroll up. Maybe you have called the shop somewhere before you initialize it down here.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. I used it somewhere. Yeah, thank you for that. I used shop. Okay, I'm using shop all around. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Thank you very much for that. Yeah. So I think it should work now. All right. So if I should run this now, it should work properly. Okay? Sorry. I really learned this. Oh. Let me just close up. All right. Okay, so it worked now. So you can see it here now. The number of items in this shop is 7. You see it now. So that's one way. So we have not been able to do an implementation of our array, and for loop together to give us a particular result. Let me just show us one more. This one is a beautiful example of data structure. Data structures. I wanted the one that we have. I wanted the one. Let's just. So there's a particular. Okay. Let's say let's call something a stack. You know what a stack is? The way an array is the way an array is basically what we call a stack. So it takes in objects into it, like a container that you can stack objects into. So you put objects. So it takes in. So it works in first in, last out, last in, first out principle, first in, last out principle, something like that. Can't remember exactly. So yeah, but that's how it works. But let's say this stack is a stack, which is an array, for instance. For this one already has one. I've already done a while loop. Let me think of something that we can do with the unicorn. Something we can do with a while loop. Okay, so let's say we want to just write a simple code that will count numbers from 1 to 5. That does not look like much, but just to give us something. We want to count numbers from 1 to 5. So yeah, let's count numbers from 1 to 5. So let's see. Look what is now. Let's see counter. Let's see counter. Let's see counter. Let's see counter. Let's see counter is equal to 1, right? And so we want to say while this particular counter is less than or equal to 5. Is less than or equal to 5. We want to first of all increase the counter. We want to first of all show the value of the counter initially, and then counter, and then we want to increase our counter. I think this is how we stop for today. I think about this. Okay, so yeah. What else? What do we do now? Let's find out if this works. And yeah, it did work. So we're able to count numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, guys. So I think my job is done here today. Thank you very much. I don't know if anybody has any questions. We have like 6 minutes to ask in the class. All right, Jonah.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Yes, yes.
Thank you for the lesson, sir. Sir, there is this person that told me that using our like in loop, either using for loop, while loop, or do while, that if you are using increments, you will not, for increments now, you should go with less than. Like for example, when we initialize our I to be 0, then our I is less than 5. Then let it increment. That kind of stuff, like when we have I is equals to 0, then I is greater than 5, for example. Then you also do I plus plus, that thing will keep running. That I don't know if that kind of stuff is true. I don't know.
Okay, I think what the person was trying to talk about was what we call infinity loop. That's what the person was trying to explain to you. So what happens is that if we talked about initialization, condition, then incrementation or decrementation. So if this condition never gets to a point where it becomes false, then that loop will keep running endlessly without an end. I don't have the time. I would have written one kind of small, like what he said. I think he's correct. So once the condition is in such a way that it will never get to a point where it will be forced, that loop will never stop running. So you'll never stop. So you have to make sure that, especially if you're writing a program, you're writing a software, you're building your application, and then you are using for loop, make sure that you write the conditions that will stop that loop. Make sure that you target the condition that's going to make that loop stop running at some point. Yeah, so that it does not run forever and crash your application by what you are doing. Yeah, so I think the question is very correct. Those are all going. All right. Any other last question? Any other final question? All right. If no question, Mr. Edosia, are you with us?
Yeah, Mr. Praise, what's up?
Yes. We are done. I don't know if there's already an assignment.
Yeah, there were some guys that were asking questions. I don't know, are you done with them? Okay.
Yes.
So
yes,
the
yes.
assignment I wanted to give them are not ready. I wanted to discuss that with you later, actually.
Okay.
So it's something that both of us could look at.
All right.
So I'm planning to give it to them by tomorrow evening or Monday.
All right, so we are done.
Can you hear me? Yes, we are done.
Like I said, we are done.
Okay, and someone is raising up his hand, Michael. I don't know if you
Okay.
have answered his own question.
Okay, let's just take that. That's the last question.
So Michael, you can speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello. Yeah, I just wanted to ask if this tutorial or this example he worked on will be published on GitHub. I just wanted to ask. Sorry.
Okay. If it will be published on GitHub, do you want me to push it to GitHub?
Yes, sir. Please. The last guy yesterday pushed it to GitHub, and that was really helpful. It was really helpful. So if you can, then you just drop your link to your GitHub, so we can just check it at any time if tomorrow you see it. Thank you.
Let me drop my link on the chat box. Yeah, so before the end of in a few minutes time, you should be able to see it. Okay. Give all right. I wish I know that I've not been deleting all this stuff. Maybe I'll have to send it. So yeah. Um, so yeah, this is the GitHub link. This is, I don't know if you can see the GitHub link on chat box already. Good. So yeah, I'll push it to GitHub right now. So that's all right. We are done. See you next time, whenever.
All right, guys. So we are done for today's class. See you in the next class, and look out for our assignment coming tomorrow or Monday. So, like I don't expect this to be too hard. You see